Okay, I cried so hard in a yoga class in Tulum that it briefly became an event. It wasn't a cute, cinematic, one tear down the cheek. I mean fully, publicly, audibly, in a jungle, in Tulum, during yoga teacher training at like 6:30 in the morning, which is honestly a very rude time to be confronted by your own psyche. And I think the worst part was that if you'd asked me before I went, do you think you're the kind of person who might accidentally have a grief exorcism in front of strangers under a straw roof in Mexico? I would have said, no, absolutely not. Which is, of course, exactly what a person says right before they're having a grief exorcism in front of strangers under a straw roof in Mexico. Because before I went to Tulum, one of my teachers said to me, "I'm proud of you." And it was the way that they said it. It was eerie. It was like giving the tone of, "Good luck in there." And I said, I kind of feel like I'm about to go through some kind of portal. And they said, "You are." No smile or softness, just spiritually threatening. And at the time I thought, okay, that's weird. That felt very anti-vacation. I'm going to go to Mexico, so I'm not going to overthink this. Anyway, they were right. Because I went to Tulum thinking I was going to do yoga teacher training, which I was, but apparently I was also going there so my nervous system could kick down a locked door and be like, "Hi, yes, quick update. Actually, we have 7,000 years of unprocessed grief in storage, and today feels like a good day." Yoga had been circling me for years. And yes, I did want to become a yoga teacher, but not in the same way that I wanted other things. I'm a writer, I'm an actor, an entrepreneur, one of those deeply irritating people with multiple identities and 3 YouTube channels. Which actually, while we're here, if you're enjoying the story, please like and subscribe. I hate doing this and you hate hearing it, and yet here we are participating in the modern world together. But truly, it helps more than you think. You know, yoga teachers survive on likes, electrolytes, and good vibes. Yoga always felt less like destiny and more like a side street. Oh, that road again. It's back. And I kept saying yes to it. And looking back, I think the part of why I kept saying yes to more things in general was because staying in motion had become my favorite way to stay intact, which is a very elegant way of saying I was vibrating constantly and calling it my personality. I teach bar. My whole physical language is basically up an inch, down an inch, faster, faster, tuck, tuck, hold, feel that shake. Working out is kind of how I relax, which I realize makes me sound unwell. Okay, so I get to Tulum and we're doing these 14-hour days, yoga, anatomy, philosophy, practice teaching, presentations, emotional intimacy with near strangers before caffeine. It was beautiful and exhausting and so intimate. You know when you're around people for 4 days, but it feels more like 4 months because everyone is sleep deprived and open and stretching their hip flexors and accidentally revealing childhood wounds before breakfast? That. Also, for the record, this was not a cult. However, I do think I'm exactly the kind of person a cult would find promising. Like if a cult recruiter saw me journaling near incense eating an avocado, they'd be like, "Get her." So the environment was already favorable. And one morning, a woman in the training gave a presentation about losing her mother, who had also been her best friend. She spoke through tears about how we're all going to lose people and how most of us spend a shocking amount of time in our lives trying not to really look at that, staying just to the side of it, not denying it exactly, just never making eye contact. And something in me recognized that immediately because I come from a small community where there's been a lot of loss, a lot. And at some point, without ever formally deciding it, I think I just stopped fully feeling all of it. Which sounds like a choice, but really it isn't. It's more like your system quietly going, okay, this is too much, so let's just put some of this in the basement and continue being charming. So by the next morning, I already felt kind of cracked open. And then our teacher brought in music into the 6:30 a.m. practice for the first time. And I don't know how to explain this without sounding like someone who only communicates through moon phases, but the second the music started, something in my brain got hit. Like a piano key. Like some inner mechanism went, "Oh, there you are." And I dropped into that weird, altered, floaty, very concentrated state that can happen with breath and movement, which, to be fair, was not completely new to me. I had altered state experiences before through breath work. Years ago in Costa Rica, I had this intense session where I felt the presence of a close friend who had died over 15 years earlier, and both of my grandmothers who had passed during COVID. I know that sounds insane, I hear it, but it didn't feel imaginary. And in that same experience, I also kind of watched myself die, or something adjacent to that. No drugs, by the way, which is honestly rude. If I'm gonna have a transcendental death rebirth experience, I'd at least like to have a better story. But I knew enough to know that breath can open strange doors. So there I was in this open air chalet, straw roof, jungle sounds, birds absolutely minding their own business, and I'm breathing and moving and getting quieter and quieter and deepening and deepening. And then all of a sudden, grief over a friend who died just 9 months earlier came up. Immediately, I saw his huge smile and I heard his laugh. And literally for half a second, there was this intense feeling of joy. And then grief hit my body like a gong, like a mallet to a bell. And before my mind could get there and organize the experience into something acceptable, I just started sobbing. And for the first time, I genuinely could not tell if I was having an anxiety attack or a spiritual experience. And honestly, I'm still not fully convinced that those are always different things. Then my mind immediately did what minds do. Okay, let's shut this down. Be normal. Breathe smaller. Please be a person other people know what to do with. I just kept breathing. I kept moving. I didn't try to explain it to myself while it was happening. And then, because grief loves a group project, other losses started to arrive too. My grandmother's, my friend from years ago, old grief, fresh grief, all of it apparently wearing name tags and entering the room at once. I cried through pigeon pose. I cried through shavasana, which is already vulnerable because you're horizontal and your heart is exposed. At some point, the teacher came by and pressed gently into my feet, which felt nice. I truly don't know how loud I was. In my mind, I was being discreet, but there was a very real possibility that from the outside, it sounded like a Victorian woman receiving bad news by telegram. And then the class ended. People rolled up their mats like emotionally regulated citizens, and I did not. I just stayed. Because whatever was moving through me was not done. So I lay there and I listened to the birds and I felt the sun slowly move across my face. Still crying, but softer now. And then I noticed 2 classmates had stayed. They didn't come over and ask if I was okay in that panicked voice that people use when they really want you to say yes. They didn't interpret it or try to fix it. They just stayed, breathing, meditating, keeping me company while I completely lost my grip on being composed. That might have been the most tender part, just being allowed to be a wreck without anyone trying to turn it into something. Eventually they left, and I stayed a little bit longer. The teacher had left her phone, so the music was still playing. At some point, I got up, still shaky, still crying a little, but something had changed. What came in after the grief was joy. Not like happy joy, like, oh, amazing, love this for me. It was something quieter, almost wordless. The room looked offensively beautiful after that. The light, the plants, the air. You know those moments after you stop fighting what's happening and everything gets sharper? That. And it felt absurdly like I'd taken MDMA or psilocybin or whatever your preferred I have seen the fabric of existence substances. Except I had taken nothing. Just breath, movement, memory, grief, and not stopping it for once. Of course, my ego came back, and naturally she had notes. Yeah, so everyone heard you. You made a scene. You became the girl who sobbed through yoga in the jungle. But I just ignored her. Because something had shifted for me. I realized that you can carry grief for a long time and still look completely fine. You can even process it and think you're done processing it. You can build things, be funny, social, and a pretty functional adult most of the time and still be absolutely not dealing with it. And that's the part that gets me. Sometimes it just waits. And apparently mine waited for a jungle yoga class in Tulum, which is dramatic, yes. But also, if grief is going to make a scene, it might as well have a beautiful backdrop. And apparently that's exactly what I needed. Has your body ever told you something that your mind was absolutely not ready to hear? My name is Ashley Evans, and if you liked this video, please like and subscribe. You might also want to subscribe to my Substack, Wannabe Wisdom Diaries of a Fake Guru. Check out the link in the description and consider becoming a paid subscriber. There's lots of perks like theta therapy audio recordings to help you move from blocked to expressed. Thank you.